Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Steve Wiedemann. This evening, we warmly welcome Flight Lieutenant Richard Caesar Thwaites, retired, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Please be seated if able. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Richard Graham Cottew. Richard Cottew was born on the 25th of February 1923 in Auckland, New Zealand, to Leslie and Renee Cottew. He had a younger brother, Geoffrey, and their father was the manager of a cable and wireless station. The family moved to Australia and lived in Queensland and South Australia. Cottew attended Southport State Primary and Southport High School in Brisbane, and then took night classes in bookkeeping with the State Commercial High School. He was fond of tennis, swimming, and worked as a clerk at Brothwick and Sons. On the 18th of July 1942, Cottew enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force, aged 19. He was trained as a navigator and received his badge in March 1943, and the next month he was made sergeant. Cottew embarked for overseas service from Sydney on the 25th of May 1943, arriving in the UK in July. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers throughout the course of the war joined the British Commonwealth squadrons based in Britain. Further specialist training followed in England, and in October 1943, Cottew was promoted to Flight Sergeant. On the 11th of May 1944, he was posted to number 467 Squadron, RAF. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew the 4-engined Arvo Lancaster heavy bomber. On the 8th of June, Bomber Command launched a bombing raid on the railways at Rennes in France. Flight Sergeant Cottew was the navigator aboard his Lancaster, which took off just after 11 p.m. The mission was a success, and the crew were on their way back to Lincolnshire when bad weather forced them to be diverted to airfields at Catfloss in Yorkshire. However, cloud cover there was poor as well, and more than one aircraft crashed while trying to locate the airfields. Cottew's aircraft was waiting in the landing circuit when, in poor visibility, just before 4 a.m. on the 9th of June, it struck a tree and crashed into the ground near Woodhouse Farm near Skylow. Killed in the crash with Flight Sergeant Cottew were Australian Flight Sergeant Sydney Merrin, British Sergeants Stanley Ward and Melrose Vance, Australian Pilot Officer Herbert Parkinson, and British Sergeant Thomas Collins both died of their wounds in a matter of hours. The only survivor was Australian Flight Sergeant Nissan Mosselman. Cottew was buried with his Australian crewmates at the Harrogate Stonefall Cemetery in Yorkshire under the inscription, "His life for our freedom." He was 21 years old. Richard Cottew was dearly missed by his family and friends who posted in memoriam notices in the newspapers after his death. He was commemorated at the Southport State and High School Memorial Library. Flight Sergeant Richard Cottew's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant Richard Graham Cottew, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.